Elizabeth Warren apparently is now speaking out about how she is a Native American. So she's speaking to the Native American or Native Indian Conference of some such or other. I'm not sure what exactly. It was the National Congress of American Indians. That's what it was. She made a surprise appearance at the National Congress of American Indians. And apparently she was incredibly great. I mean, she was just full-on regalia. She showed up with the headdress. She showed up with the smoke and peace pipe, the whole deal. And again, whenever I say things like this, it's not because I'm mocking Native American culture. It's because I'm mocking Elizabeth Warren for appropriating Native American heritage. Okay, so here's what she said to the Native American conference. Quote, "By all accounts, my mother was a beauty." I know Elizabeth Warren, by the way, and she is one of the more obnoxious humans on planet Earth. "By all accounts, my mother was a beauty. She was born in eastern Oklahoma on this exact day, Valentine's Day, in February 14th, 1912. She grew up in the little town of Wetumpka, the kind of girl who would sit for hours by herself playing the piano and singing. My daddy fell head over heels in love with her, but my mother's family was part Native American, and my daddy's parents were bitterly opposed to their relationship. So, in 1932, when my mother was 19 and daddy had just turned 20, they eloped." Okay, so she doesn't provide any evidence, by the way, that she is of Native American heritage at all. Like none, like zero evidence. And then she says, this is my favorite line, "I get why some people think there's hay to be made here. You won't find my family members on any rolls, and I'm not enrolled in a tribe." Right? So she's openly admitting that she's not enrolled in a tribe, that you won't be able to find any of her family members on the Native American rolls. Remember, the record keeping for Native American heritage is extremely good. Right? It is very in-depth, which is why you can have situations where legitimately the government will come and take somebody who's a quarter Native American out of their foster home and bring them back to a reservation because of how good the rolls are. Right? But this is the best part. She says, quote, "Our stories are deeply woven into the fabric of who we are. The stories of immigrants and slaves, of explorers and refugees, have shaped and reshaped our country right up to the present day. For far too long, your story has been pushed aside to be trotted out only in cartoons and commercials. So I'm here today to make a promise. Each time someone brings up my family's story, I'm going to use it to lift up the story of your families and your communities." And that last line there, as Alex Griswold says at Free Beacon, right, that is called using the Native American community as your political human shield. Right? Every time someone calls her Pocahontas, every time President Trump botches it and calls her Pocahontas, every time that happens, she's simply going to shift it and say, Native Americans are so important. Native American heritage is so important. Never mind the fact that we call her Pocahontas because she's been lying about her Native American heritage. I mean, she's as Native American as Sean King is black, apparently. And the idea that Sean King, by the way, his father was white, his mother was white on the birth certificate. He says that his mom had an affair. There's no evidence that any of this is true. The same thing is true of Elizabeth Warren. She suggests that she is Native American. There is no evidence at all that Elizabeth Warren is Native American. How much of a joke is her Native American heritage? It's such a joke that Elizabeth Warren used as evidence of her Native American heritage the fact that she had submitted a recipe to a cookbook called, I kid you not, Pow Wow Chow. That was the name of the cookbook. And the recipe that she actually submitted was a recipe for crab bisque. Okay, which it turns out she actually copied from a copy of Good Housekeeping or something. It turns out that crab bisque is not actually a Native American heritage thing because crabs are not wandering across the fruited plains of Oklahoma, which is where she is from. So she's a joke. But this is what Democrats are going to do. They're going to do the intersectionality pyramid all the way to the bottom, which is just insane. And so they're struggling. Right? Democrats are struggling right now. There's a poll out right now, a shocking poll from the Politico Morning Consult survey, right? This is not a survey that is biased toward Republicans. And it shows generic polls right now among registered voters. 39% said they would back the GOP candidate in their district. 38% said they would support a Democrat. 23% are undecided. So Democrats still have a pretty solid advantage across a variety of polls, according to CNBC. An average of recent generic ballots shows Democrats with about a 7-point lead, according to Real Clear Politics. But that was 13 points at the end of last year. So they've fallen at least 6 points. And there are a couple of outlier polls now that show that the Republicans are actually in the lead or even. And so that is a big piece of news. Also, the Politico Consult poll, Morning Consult poll, it shows a 47% approval rating for President Trump. That's about as good as it's going to get for Trump. Trump's never going to break 50. But 47% is a very solid approval rating for President Trump. So despite the attempts to beat him down over the Rob Porter situation or the bleep whole country's remark, it's as I said, everything is baked into the cake except the evidence of how the economy is doing. That is not baked into the cake. All of the character stuff is baked into the cake with Trump. So, for example, there's a story out today that Michael Cohen, who is Trump's lawyer, did in fact pay Stormy Daniels, a porn star, $130,000 out of his own pocket, supposedly out of the goodness of his heart. Now, Cohen says, quote, neither the Trump organization nor the Trump campaign was a party to the transaction with Miss Clifford, That's Stormy Daniels. And either reimburse me for my payment, either directly or indirectly. He said the payment to Ms. Clifford was lawful and was not a campaign contribution or a campaign expenditure by anyone. He was asked, by the way, why it was that he had actually just signed a six-figure check to a porn star with whom he had not had personal relations, and he refused to answer those questions. It was just out of charity. He just likes porn stars that much and feels that bad for him. He signs random checks days before the election in the amount of $130,000. Of course, that's a joke. Of course, it's ridiculous. Cohen is saying this in response to a complaint one group filed with the FEC regarding the payment. Right? He has not confirmed or denied anything with regard to the payment itself. But is this hurting Trump anyway? No, of course. The Stormy Daniels stuff happened 2 weeks ago and no one cared. Everybody immediately brushed off the fact that the president of the United States, when he was married and his wife had just given birth, was having an affair with a porn star and then dropped 130 grand on her days before the election to keep it quiet. Or at least his lawyer did, out of the goodness of his heart. Man, I got to get me one of those lawyers. I got to get me one of the lawyers who actually signs my gas bill. Right? The lawyer who just says, I love my client so much that out of the goodness of my own heart, I just pay people off. So that doesn't have any impact on Trump. And so Democrats are struggling because the character attacks aren't doing a lot of good for them. They're going to continue to leverage them, of course, but they're so ensconced in the identity politics of what they do that they're having some serious trouble translating that into political victory. And so they have to sort of tell fibs. Now, their best angle of attack here would be that President Trump doesn't care about you. Right? President Trump, this is always the gap for Republicans. It's a gap for President Trump. That President Trump doesn't care about people like you. He's not really trying to help people like you. He's just trying to help his corporate buddies. Right? You do the Bernie Sanders routine. It is shocking to hear that these words are going to come out of my mouth. But Bernie Sanders has the best angle of attack on President Trump. Okay, not Kamala Harris, not Cory Booker, not all the people who insist on being offended. Being offended by Trump plays into his shtick. If you are offended by Trump, Trump has won. If you say that Trump doesn't care about people like you, that is always the most fruitful line of attack against Republicans. But Democrats don't seem to care about that, and so they're continuing on with this intersectional nonsense. So, for example, Senator Bob Menendez from New Jersey, he's going on and on about how Trump doesn't care about immigrants, and we shouldn't use the term chain migration. Again, this is intersectional nonsense.
We will make America great again.